Good morning, everyone, to this final Sunday in June, Pride Sunday. So I know some people were able to come out to Pride this weekend. It was great seeing everybody. I will say there was lots of queer joy and lots of excitement from the community. So with that, I'd like to welcome everybody on Facebook who is joining us and those who are here in the room. Thank you all for joining us. We'll start with news from our community. So I have a couple notes here. So there is a round box back just inside of the back doors on top of the baptistry for the Camp Sunflower donations. If you have questions on that, see Linda. We're also still collecting supplies for those who are living on the streets, toothpaste, toiletries, pens and paper, a lot of different things that you might have in your day-to-day that they might not have, and especially Band-Aids. Band-Aids.
They can make you go for a walk and you're not coming home for a week. What you really need that you don't have.
Yep.
That's happening.
All right, any other announcements from the community? As I noted, this is Pride Sunday, and so we do have a special guest speaker today. Dr. Pearson is joining us. I will tell a little bit more about them before they talk about queer joy. This is also the last Sunday that I will be the one leading you, and you will note later that it does say Lisa up there for the communion message. I will be doing that if she's not feeling well. And then next week, I know that Dina and the team have all been working on a patriotism versus nationalism theme for the service. So we'll have a couple videos. We will not be streaming next week due to coverage of people, but we will have a couple of videos that we'll work through. Okay. With that, if there is nothing else to add, we will get started. Our first song is Turning of the World. I think most of the songs that I have picked today we have done before. There's a couple that may be not as familiar. So just join along as you feel comfortable, and as you can, please stand.
And as we do in Song Circle, you sing with your whole lungs, just belt it out. It doesn't really matter if you know it or not.
The words are on the screen.
Let us sing this song for the turning of the world, that we may turn as one. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our turning.
a responsive call to worship.
Come, beloved community, queer, questioning, and allied, bringing your full, fabulous selves. We come with joy that resists shame, with love that refuses to be silenced. In this space, every pronoun is honored, every body is holy, and every story is worthy. Gather in celebration of queer joy, bold, beautiful, and blessed. God delights in our authenticity, our glittering truths, our chosen families. We worship the one who dances in our pride and sings in our freedom. Let us lift our voices in defiant hope and radiant praise. With our hearts and fierce joy, we worship the God of liberation and love. And for our hymn of peace today, we'll be singing Through the Hard Times through Utah Phillips.
What did you say?
Singing Through the Hard Times by Utah Phillips.
Oh, okay. I thought there was something else I wasn't aware of. There probably is, but. Here we go.
Sometimes our living so dark and lonesome, it seems like there's nothing we can do. So we reach out to each other and raise a song together and let our voices carry us through. We are singing through the hard times, singing through the hard times, working for the good times to come. We are singing through the hard times, singing through the hard times, working for the good times to come. And when the war clouds gather, it's so easy to get angry, and just as hard not to be afraid. But you know in your own heart, no matter what happens, you just can't turn your back and walk away. We are singing through the hard times, singing through the hard times, working for the good times to come. We are singing through the hard times, singing through the hard times, working for the good times to come. So hand in hand together, we help each other carry the light of peace within us every day. If we can learn to live it, to walk and talk and give it, that world of peace won't be so far away. We are singing through the hard times, singing through the hard times, working for the good times to come. We are singing through the hard times, singing through the hard times, working for the good times to come.
And you may be seated. You may not go anywhere. Our special music today is Jesus Christ, written by Woody Guthrie. We teach in this church that Jesus came and the government punished him for what he taught. And so as part of Pride Month, as we follow what Jesus has taught us to love those around us who are like us and not like us, we wanted to bring this forth as an extra takeaway of what life
is really teaching us to be.
And if you know this, join right in. Here we go. Jesus Christ was a man that traveled through the land, a hard-working man and brave. He said to the rich, give your goods to the poor. So they laid Jesus Christ in his grave. Now Jesus was a man, a carpenter by hand, his followers true and brave. But the cops and legislators called them dangerous agitators. So they laid Jesus Christ in his grave. He went to the preacher, he went to the sheriff. He told them all the same. Sell all your jewelry and give it to the poor. So they laid Jesus Christ in his grave. When Jesus came to town, the working folks around didn't believe what he did say. The bankers and the preachers, they nailed him to the cross, and they laid Jesus Christ in his grave. Jesus was a man, a carpenter by hand, his followers true and brave. But the cops and legislators called them dangerous agitators. So they laid Jesus Christ in his grave. When the love of the poor shall one day turn to hate, when the patience of the workers gives way, would be better for you rich if you never had been born. So they laid Jesus Christ in his grave. This song was written in New York City of rich men, preachers, and slaves. Yes, if Jesus preached today like he preached in Galilee, they would lay Jesus Christ in his grave. Ah, Jesus was a man, a carpenter by hand, his followers true and brave. But the cops and legislators called them dangerous agitators. So they laid Jesus Christ in his grave. But the cops and legislators called them dangerous agitators. So they laid Jesus Christ in his grave.
All right, see if I can clean things up here for you a little bit. All right, so as I mentioned in our opening, our guest speaker today, Dr. Jenny Pearson, is joining us to give us a look into queer joy. Dr. Pearson is a professor of sociology at WSU and advisor of Spectrum, the queer student group at WSU. This is a study that Dr. Pearson has been doing over the last year or so. As I told Barbara this morning, I should probably know the answer to that because, as Connie mentioned last week, I was one of the interviewees. However, I have slept since then and I don't remember. That and my wife believes I don't know how to use the word no. So I have done a few things to invite queer joy into my life, into our lives, and to hopefully the community. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Pearson and let her tell you more about what she has.
Is that any, oh, that's much better. Yes, so it's great to be here. This research started a few years ago. I have been studying gender and sexuality and how inequalities shape the experiences and opportunities of youth for a long time. But a lot of my research focused on things that weren't a lot of fun to study, things like depression and suicide and bullying, educational disadvantages. And a lot of that research is often the focus in research on queer youth. But it can get a bit heavy at times. And as we started to see kind of a growing in anti-trans, anti-queer discourse and legislation happening locally, but across the nation as well, it started to become important to me to tell a bigger story, right? Not just about the negatives and the effects of the stigma and discrimination that are very real and very important to talk about too, but all the positives of being part of the queer community or part of the trans community as well. So on campus, a couple of things kind of initiated that. There was a group on campus that was showing a very transphobic film, and the students in Spectrum wanted to counter that, right? They knew that they didn't have any right to stop the other group from showing that film on campus. So we held a Celebrating Trans and Non-Binary Voices event on campus that really highlighted the beauty, the resilience, and the humanity of the trans community. Around that same time, I was planning the keynote address for our Lavender graduation, and I was going through some pictures of LGBTQ history on our campus. We've had groups at Wichita State since 1976. And as I was looking through the pictures, it struck me that these weren't pictures that showed all the negatives, right? These were pictures that were really showing the joy that these students were experiencing in this community on campus. There's a reason these groups have been around for so long. It's not just that they're needed and important, they're a lot of fun. There's a lot of friendship and connection and belonging created in these groups. So I wanted to focus a little bit more on that. That's the original group in 1976. And so as I started to kind of shift perspectives and think a little bit more about joy, I started to see joy everywhere. I started to hear a lot about queer joy and black joy in advocacy efforts, and research was starting to take notice too. So in sociology, for example, more researchers are starting to think not just about social problems and inequalities, but about joy and pleasure in terms of their individual benefits, but also in terms of collective experiences, community building, and sustained action. This photo comes from one of the participants in my study, and I think illustrates this idea of shifting perspectives when thinking about joy as a counter to the narratives of shame and hopelessness that we hear so often, especially when it comes to queer and trans youth. Glad to see Camp Sunflower also kind of bringing that out, right? Talking about creating queer joy, and the fundraiser really focusing on building queer joy for our youth. So a singular focus on oppression can further pathologize communities that are already marginalized and can create narratives of fear and despair. It's important to talk about the joy and pleasure that comes from being a part of these communities as well. So joy is primarily a social phenomenon, which is why it interests me as a sociologist too. And a theme across the literature on joy is one of connection, community, and belonging. Sharing positive experiences with others increases our own well-being, but the happiness of us also impacts the happiness of those around us. Experiencing joy has multiple benefits for individuals, but for communities as well, including resilience, well-being, and community connection. And collective experiences of joy are related to community mobilization and sustained action, which can lead to change in policies and resources and the broader cultural climate. It turns out that a lot of folks have been talking about joy for a long time. From Alice Walker, who wrote The Color Purple, to Audre Lorde, scholars and activists have long acknowledged the power of joy as a form of healing and resistance. There's a professor of higher education and race at UC Santa Barbara who argues that studying Black joy is part of a long tradition in sociological work that explores how community building, autonomy, and resistance among Black people helps counter discrimination in a racialized society. Okay, so what is joy? A couple of definitions or conceptualizations that have come out of the research on joy I find particularly compelling. One is from Matthew Johnson, who's a research fellow in theology and religion at Oxford University. He conceptualizes joy as an emotion and a mood, right? A positive emotion and a mood, but he also talks about it as spiritual in nature. He says that joy is a sense of satisfaction or gratitude in the midst of suffering or persecution. Psychologist Jeffrey Jensen Arnett defines joy as an intense and temporary feeling of heightened positive emotion that's a consequence of a just right fit between our identity and the moment we are experiencing. So if you think about moments of what sociologists sometimes call collective effervescence, like if you're at a festival or a concert or singing together in church, right? That feeling of kind of that heightened positive emotion that brings you together and makes you feel something larger than yourself. That's how Jensen Arnett is talking about joy. And experiencing that joy helps to promote group unity and trust and group identity as well. So in both of those definitions, joy is moments when we're connected to something larger than ourselves. It's an emotionally intense, positive emotion, but what makes it different from like happiness or well-being is how it connects us to others. In her book on radical happiness, Lynn Siegel builds on Hannah Arendt's work on public happiness, where they're talking about opportunities for people to move outside of their personal troubles or their personal happiness and engage in public life. And that joy that comes from working in solidarity with others toward collective action is really beneficial for societies as a whole, right? To create healthy and happy societies, we need engagement in collective affairs. So Siegel argues that in all societies, there's always been collective resistance, that's always there somewhere under the surface, if not more visible at times. People trying to build alternatives and find strategies for fulfillment and resistance and joy. So that's why she talks about the miraculous revolutionary power of joy. Joy can sometimes be seen as trivial in the context of suffering and injustice. But joy, again, is important for that collective resistance. Cynthia Diller draws on her own work and that of Black womanist and feminist scholars to identify the conditions needed for joy. She says, we feel joy when we feel visible and heard. We feel joy when we feel respected. And we feel joy when we feel whole. Dillard says that joy emerges in the context of community connection and friendship. And therefore advocacy and allyship can create profound experiences of joy. And talks about the connection to Alice Walker's statement that resistance is the secret of joy. Okay, so what did I find when I talked to queer and trans Kansans about joy? To just kind of set this up a little bit, as you probably are aware, in many ways, the queer and trans community have been under attack, especially youth. We see a lot of bans on even discussing those identities in schools, bans on gender-affirming care, and of course, kind of ongoing stigma and harassment of queer and trans youth. There's plenty of research showing that the consequences of that is very real. But that oppression is nothing new. There's a long history of backlash to progress, paralleled by a long history of resistance and joy. Okay, so I'm going to share some of my recent research on queer joy. This started about 2 years ago with some students on campus, and I've been talking to more people since then. All in all, we've spoken with about 40 LGBTQ identified Kansans ages 18 to 60. And so the findings that I'm going to talk about today are preliminary analyses based on those interviews, and the photos that you'll see were all submitted by participants in the study. And they were photos that represent queer joy to them. Okay, so the queer Kansans we spoke with identified joy in both physical and emotional terms. So some described joy as a wave of happiness, a sense of relief. Joy was experienced both physically and emotionally. So physically, participants talked about feelings of electricity and energy. Someone said, "It just makes me feel giddy and bubbly and nice," and recognizing what gender euphoria feels like for the first time. Another participant said, "It's sort of like electricity crawling across my skin. So when I feel happy, like I really feel it, it's like a tangible physical sensation, and it's warm." Another participant said, "It's that light, bubbly, sizzling sensation, almost like floating, and it's where my laughter comes from." So I really like the words they used to describe what that feels like. This quote in particular stood out to me. "I kind of have this sort of presence in the back of my mind that I can see in my mind. It's just this kind of pink spirit. That's joy to me. It's this strange pink spirit that hugs me and holds me tight and tells me, everything will be all right." Queer joy was also described as something vibrant and colorful. Several participants referenced rainbows when describing what joy looked like to them. And many of them experienced joy intensely and frequently. Authentic self-expression was also a key source of joy for these Kansans. Many participants described a period of discovery and exploration that led to an increased self-awareness and confidence in their identity. And as a result, they felt better able to express their identities authentically. And that resulted in feelings of joy and gender euphoria. So one participant said, "I think throughout the years," I'm pretty sure this was who submitted this picture, "that I've been doing that through my life, kind of curating this collection of things that are a mixture of femininity and masculinity, and kind of learning how to take care of this body of mine that for so many years felt very not me." Experiencing joy in authentic expression led to feelings of empowerment, curiosity about themselves, and a motivation to learn more about themselves. And for some, it led to more involvement in the LGBTQ community. Another important theme was the importance of being seen and affirmed by oneself and by others for experiencing joy. So acceptance, visibility, and understanding were brought up by all of our participants in some way. Many participants talked about small moments or small acts leading to connection and joy. So things like being gendered correctly by strangers or getting compliments from strangers when expressing their authentic self. So for example, one person said, "That feeling, the excitement you hear when you hear your own name, your real name for the first time, and people see you as you truly are for the first time. That's magic. That's pure magic." Many participants, especially younger ones, talked about how meaningful efforts by their families to be accepting or affirming were to them. And that encouraged them to maintain those relationships despite conflict or difficulty. And when their attempts to connect with their family as their authentic selves were successful, that led to joy. Being seen and affirmed was most common in queer spaces. So participants talked about that shared understanding and feelings of safety being really important for experiencing queer joy, being able to let down their guard, be themselves. Safe and affirming spaces were those with others who had similar experiences, who understood their identities, and where everyone was just able to be themselves without being questioned. So that sense of belonging was really important for joy. Small acts and moments led to these feelings of connection and joy. So one participant said, "As you showed up in the community, that's how you were loved." That felt really cool. And it gave me the courage over time to explore that for myself. When talking about, someone was talking about being closeted at home but then going to their first Pride parade, they said, "Out there in the world, I can be whoever I want. I don't have to be closeted. I can use my pronouns, my preferred name, and all that jazz." So that's why I really want to go to this Pride parade, because I really want to be around people who, are kind of just like me. Just being themselves without having judgment for anyone telling them, "Hey, that's not your gender identity." I just wanted to be around people like that, and so that's why it was a really good experience. Shared experiences in queer spaces led to new friendships. So moments of connection sparked joy, and that experience of joy created stronger connections. So someone said, "There's a unique camaraderie there, and I like that there's the joy I get from my experience, my gender being recognized and not being misgendered." Another participant said, "It starts isolated," talking about joy, "it starts isolated, and when I think about that bubbly feeling, it's not it's that overflow joy when it's bubbling up so much it's spilling over the top, where it's like I'm compelled to share this feeling with other people." Several participants talked about wanting to give back to their community and to support others in their process of discovery and self-acceptance. So they talked about finding joy and pride in mentoring. Finding pride and learning to celebrate their identities was another key theme that I heard. So by learning about themselves and exploring new and creative ways of expressing themselves, and then being seen and affirmed by others, participants began to celebrate their identities and feel more confident in their own bodies. Someone said, "I feel at first I was ashamed and afraid, but as I've grown more comfortable with myself, and as I've come to understand myself better and the things I like and the way I express myself, I've actually become more proud to be queer." Participants also talked about feeling pride from their own resilience. So someone was talking about what she would tell her 12-year-old self, knowing what she knows now. "I'm so proud of you, but I've got it from here. The joy I feel now and how strong that I am now is because I endured a lot in childhood. I'm just really proud of who I am and what I survived." Finding joy in creative and authentic expression was seen by many participants as a way to break free from constraints of gendered expectations. So someone said, "I've been struggling a lot recently with being I wish I could be a cis man. And I'm wait, I'm trans. I get to be part of my own creation, my own everything. I get to choose the man that I want to become, not the man that I'm told that I should." Some talked about trying on different identities and expressions and becoming less concerned with other people's ideas of masculinity and femininity. "I don't like when people put me in a box. I am who I am. I define me, and I don't put labels on me necessarily." The stories that participants shared with us were mostly joyful, but there were also stories of pain. Some talked about how experiencing queer joy empowered them to resist stigma and hostility. Hostile environments, like those experienced by many participants at home, school, or church, sometimes led to negative views of themselves. For several participants, this eventually translated into defiance and self-acceptance, which led them to feeling empowered to detach from these communities. So a lot talked about experiences very different from what I'm feeling in your church today. So some described a sense of relief when they were empowered to leave those hostile communities. One said, "My Sunday school teacher said something that was not okay at all. And that automatically made me both really angry, but at the same time, it made me want to embrace myself harder." By resisting or leaving those communities, participants were able to create more opportunities for joy. So this study with LGBTQ Kansans illustrates how queer joy can serve as a source of resilience, positive identity, and resistance to stigma and gendered expectations. Despite living in a part of the country that is sometimes particularly hostile to queer identities, these Kansans talked about many ways their identities brought them joy. a process of discovery, expression, affirmation, and further discovery contributed to positive identity and for these queer and trans adults. And so this was one of my favorite quotes from the study, talking about the joy in knowing themselves and being seen by others. The cicada is more of a metaphor because they spend most of their life, the first several years of their life, underground. Very quiet, not trying to attract attention by anything so they don't get eaten. And then once they mature, they pop out on the ground and molt. And they suddenly have wings, a metaphor for the journey of discovery that many people, not just LGBT people, but also anybody going through their life and discovering what they like and what they are as a person. The joy is in discovery and being authentic, I suppose. Other recent work on queer joy, last photo, has found similar themes. So other researchers have talked about the joy of script breaking, of unlearning and challenging those more oppressive expectations, and talking about queer joy as contributing to an ethic of care. So in other words, one that's characterized by mutual connection, communal care, and reciprocity. Others have talked about how Black joy and queer joy can kind of intersect, and that Black queer joy is about celebrating oneself. And they argue that that's especially essential when identities are devalued in the broader society. A lot of this research echoes findings of social connectedness, feeling that sense of belonging, and connecting to affirming others in creating joy. So what does this mean? What are some takeaways about queer joy? At a time of really harmful discourse and increasingly hateful talk about queer and trans individuals, it's important to remember that we define who we are. Those who don't see us or value us don't get to define us. It's important to remember that centering joy is important for sustaining our health and well-being, and that community is key. Connecting with others authentically and building community is the key to resistance, and joy connects us to each other and to something larger than ourselves. It can sometimes feel overwhelming and easy to forget that life is actually full of joyful things worth fighting for, and people, those we know as well as strangers, who care about us and are in this together. So joy helps us remember what matters. Joy makes life worth living, and joy therefore makes the fight worth fighting. And that's, for me, why joy is important. Thank you.
We will have an opportunity to talk a little bit more about, with Dr. Pearson about the study and any questions you might have during our after-service discussion. But for now, I would like you all to join me in the affirmation of inclusion. We believe that every person is in reflection of the divine, unique, beloved, and whole. We affirm the sacredness of all identities, of every race, gender, orientation, ability, and expression. We welcome the wisdom of every story, the strength of every journey, the radiance of every truth. In this community, there is room for every voice, every body, every kind of love. We celebrate queer joy as holy, resistance as sacred, and authenticity as a gift to the world. We commit to creating spaces where all are seen, heard, and cherished, without condition or exception. This is our covenant, to walk together in love, to speak with courage, and to build a world where inclusion is not an aspiration, but a lived reality. With that, we will turn to our time of prayer. there is a lot going on in the world right now, and locally and in the nation, that hangs heavy on, I know, many of the hearts here. So here is an opportunity to share. Karen?
I just want to, say prayers for Iran and Israel. It's like those two, it's like don't seem to know what they're doing, and I think they need to. It's like going and see. It's like how they can resolve their conflicts.
Yes, we pray for peace in the Middle East for everyone. Cheryl?
I felt sad for a young man yesterday during the Pride Parade. He was happy that he was at the Pride Parade, that it brought him joy, but he was sad because his family did not accept him and did not love him. I know that others are in the same boat, and I pray that they can feel that joy in their lives and remember that they have joy to live.
Yes, for those who have families who are unaccepting of them, for both them and their families, that they can find love in their hearts and celebration of each other. Dave?
Yeah, for two prayers this morning. First, request is to keep Camp Sunflower in your mind and in your prayers as they prepare for their camp starting on the 7th of July. We got 92 kids coming out to camp this year, 14 CITs in training, and 15 volunteers to lead all that activity. And the kids need your prayers just to have a good time, and the adults need prayers to endure. Kids are kids, no matter what. So, no matter if it's a church camp or a queer camp. And then also prayers for my son and his endeavors starting this week. Their church has taken 200 kids up to Nebraska, to University of Nebraska for a week of camp, their church camp. And I pray for all the adults in that leadership role to endure and for the kids to respect each other.
Thanks for that, Dave. For Camp Sunflower, that the youth may find a place of joy and camaraderie, belonging, to go with what Dr. Pearson said. To the adults who are around them, that they can share their love throughout the week with the youth, and between the heat and being teenagers, thrive, not just survive. And then to those going to Nebraska, safe travels and lessons of love. Any other prayers? Okay. We will then turn to our hymn of faith. The kingdom of God is the queerest of nations. Please stand as you're able.
Salvation
our Lord's Prayer as written on the screen or as most comfortable for you. God of love, we thank you for the spirits who were trailblazers, moving and shaking people's hearts and minds. Stir up in us that same energy of those who helped pave the way for where our LGBTQIA+ siblings are today. May we never stop expanding the borders of love and acceptance for all your children, and with your help, may we strive for a social order where justice and equality are enjoyed by all. Compassionate Jesus, on the days where this work of justice and reconciliation feels like too much, help lighten our load. Soften our hearts to welcome people of all sexual orientations, gender identities, and gender expressions in all of the bodies in which they encompass. Teach us to learn and relearn with humility and excitement. Creator God, we marvel in awe at the expansiveness of your creation. Your margins of diversity are boundless, and for that we thank you. Each of our beloved LGBTQIA+ brown and black siblings are beautifully and wonderfully made, all in your image. Teach us to love people just as they are and embrace their identity fully as you have embraced us. Weaver of justice, let us be your hands and feet. May we follow the Spirit's lead and work for justice and equity for your LGBTQIA+ siblings. In prayer, we say that our LGBTQIA+ siblings are made in your image, and we are committed to your ministry of reconciliation. In your mercy, hear our prayer. Amen. You may be seated. As we come around this table together, I'm reminded of the message that was given Friday at our interfaith service for Wichita Pride. One from the Bible that had not been quite taught to me in this fashion. So on the evening of the Last Supper, Jesus told his disciples to go to town and find the man carrying the jug of water. Now, today's age, a man carrying a jug of water doesn't sound like a whole lot. But take yourself back thousands of years. A man would not be carrying a jug of water. That was women's work. So for a man to be carrying a jug of water meant he was defying what society expected of him. Did he identify as transgender and was going down that path? Did he identify differently? Of course we don't know. But one would expect when Jesus tells you to follow somebody who is going against what society tells you, it's something to think about. And so then the disciples followed the man with the jug of water to what would be their final meal. And he broke the bread and he gave the cup. And he used this as a reminder to all of the disciples for how to live their life. When you eat this bread, remember me. In this case, maybe remember who I asked you to follow. When you drink this cup, live your life with the blessing that is there. And know we are all together. At this church, we celebrate communion together, and the table is open to all. We tend to give in a circle together with the chairs the way they are. I think everybody can kind of stay where they're at if they would like. You can take a piece of bread, you can dip it into the juice and partake. The bread of life and the cup of blessing. So please stand and share with one another. Of sending forth, rise as one.
Here we go. We will march as one. We will stand as one. We will rise as one. radiant with joy, rooted in pride, and ready to shine.
Let your laughter be resistance, your love be liberation, your presence be a blessing.
We carry the light of queer joy into every space we enter.
May your steps be bold, your hearts be open, and your voices never silenced.
We go forth as a community